We're on YouTube, not that anyone's watching, so just don't insult me publicly.
Okay.
I'm going to open up. So if you want to keep playing, people can listen or they can
Sure.
chat with one another. Okay.
Let me just put on the chat thing. It's clear. Here we go.
Just turning 5 right now, everyone. We'll give a couple of, keep going. You can keep going, Hal. We'll give everyone a few moments to check in. But go ahead, use the chat function to say hello. We can't listen to the music if you're all unmuted. So go in that chat, see some you know, and visit that way while we wait to start. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's nice to see all of you. Nice to have you with us as we gather and create Kahila, create our community this Shabbat. And what a moment in our world, in our lives, that we find this Shabbat. As hard as our world has been and challenging in the last bit of time, it seems to keep becoming more so. And so I look forward to this Shabbat of what it promises, just a respite, a renewal, a break from the craziness, the madness, the demands of the world. And we get together and we invoke our tradition and all its spirit. That's what we create, that sacred space and time that transcends time and space. I look for some words, some poetic words that might start our time for focus and lean in the direction of Dr. King or even Malcolm X to give some honor, kavod to the moment that we face and the struggle that we're in. None of them spoke to me. I actually was called to a little bit older piece from our own tradition, from the Book of Psalms. You hear Psalm 23 usually read at funerals, and so we associate it with death. But it's really a poem about being in the darkness and feeling overwhelmed and feeling desire of not wanting to be alone. And no matter your theology of how you think that God or divine might be with you, listen to the words of this poem. And beyond that particular theology that's there, but just the idea, the prospect, the possibility that when things are so dark and the weight of the world is so heavy, that we are not alone, that there's someone, something, some power with us in the darkness. Listen to its words as our kavanah as we begin our prayers tonight. Psalm 23, Mizmor LeDavid. Adonai ro'i lo echsar binvot desha yarbitz eni. Adonai is my shepherd, and I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil because you are with me. Your rod, your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in this house of the holy forever. Adonai ro'i lo echsar binvot desha yarbitzeni. We shall dwell in the house of the holy forever. Let's begin our prayers and let's embrace the spirit of Shabbat that I feel we need so desperately this week. Hal?
Yay die die da die die, yay die die da die die, yay die 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 die, yay die 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 die, yay die die da die die, yay die die da die die, yay die 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 die, yay die 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 die, yay did die did it did it die, yay da die 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 die, yay die 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 die.
We continue with our welcoming of Shabbat. You can find it in our virtual song sheet, either downloaded in the chat or the link. Yedid Nefesh, the precious soul that it shares and sends its love with us this Shabbat. Yedid Nefesh.
Yedid Nefesh, la 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 la
We wrap up our welcoming with Lecha Dodi as we think about the Shabbat bride or queen who comes and joins us each week. And maybe when we do, that imagery is given to us by our tradition just for the sheer majesty, the awe, the transcendence that we associate with a bride, with a queen. Our world certainly can use some of that majesty, and perhaps as we sing, you can think about and suggest where the spirit of that majesty, that awe you might want to send. Of course, we all need it ourselves, but there may be people or communities in our world who could use that sparkle, that essence. So we welcome Shabbat and the promise of what she brings.
Lecha Dodi, Rikra Kala, B'nei Shabbat Mekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nilcha, Ki mekor habracha, Merosh mikedem nesucha, Sof ma'aseh v'machasha v'techila, Lecha Dodi, Rikra Kala, B'nei Shabbat Mekabela. Lecha Dodi, Rikra Kala, B'nei Shabbat Mekabela. Boi v'shalom atet bala, Gam b'simcha v'zola, Toch emune am segula. Boi chala, Boi chala. Lecha Dodi, Rikra Kala, B'nei Shabbat Mekabela. Lecha Dodi, Rikra Kala, B'nei Shabbat Mekabela.
So if we now ended our formal welcoming of Shabbat, take a moment and welcome one another. I would encourage you to use the chat function, and you can do the whole kind of general Shabbat Shalom to everyone chat, but I'm also going to push you to find someone else's name on there and give them a private hello, a private Shabbat Shalom. Go ahead, take a moment, and just as we were gathering in person physically, we do the same this way, and say Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Hal's got an actual.
Oops.
Shabbat Shalom. That's all good, Hal. All right, everyone. I trust you've said Shabbat Shalom. I see a few general greetings. We continue with our prayers. We turn to words of Shema. These words we find in the book of Deuteronomy. One of the many moments that our people gathered at Sinai, and Moses says, hey, listen, pay attention. That this deity, this divinity, it's ours and it's all around us. No matter what we feel, how vulnerable we are in this wilderness, we are still connected to it, and by it, connected to one another. So as we declare these words, we're reminding ourselves too to pay attention. Whatever way we feel in the wilderness, we are still part of that unity, that oneness. And with that, there is always hope and always promise.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Part of the section of our prayers that includes Shema has a few other staples, and one of those is Micah. Like Shema, it's also from Torah. It's from the book of Exodus, Shemot. It's from the part of our stories when our ancestors realized they were free and they sang the song of freedom. And when they sang it and when they were celebrating their freedom, and us too, but not only do we sing and celebrate our own freedom, but as I like to mention and have us focus, is that with freedom comes responsibility, comes opportunities not just to preserve our freedoms, but stop the oppression, stop those ways that other people's freedoms are limited to. And maybe more, especially this Shabbat, we have that kind of freedom and its responsibilities in mind. So let's take a moment before we sing Mi Chamocha, this prayer that points us towards freedom and its gifts and blessings, to look ahead to our week, anticipate the ways that each one of us, that you might cultivate freedom in the world and just a little bit more. A small, simple way that you might bring redemption to others. You know, each one of us has it within our power to stop in any moment, any place, and be prayerful and reflective. Hey, there's at least a dozen apps for it that you can do a 5-minute meditation or reflection on your own throughout the course of your day, your week, or whatever you need. While that's powerful, I will also say that there is a kind of sacred space that we can enter when we are in a group that we can't alone. Because that same focus and kavanah, we all have to create it, that it creates a different opportunity for engagement with the divine, for reflection, and for meditation. It doesn't matter, like I said, when we started, if we are in person or not, we are still gathering and creating that spiritual field, if you will. And our service always gives us that time for that reflection throughout the whole prayers that we do, but also in this next time, a little more structured and intentional way for us to engage that divine in the warmth and embrace of the spiritual field. So Hal's going to lead us through a kirtan, which is one of the modes we like to use when we pray tefillah, and he'll guide us through with a few of the names of the divine that our tradition uses, and you can listen, you can respond, but use this to create that space within for you to pray, to reflect, and to contemplate.
Hamakom hazeh again. Hamakom, hamakom, hamakom hazeh. Oh, hamakom, hamakom, hamakom hazeh. Adonai, 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 Shekhinah, 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 Havaya, 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 El Elyon, El Elyon, El Elyon, El Elyon, Hamakom, 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 Hamakom hazeh, Hamakom, Hamakom, Hamakom hazeh, Adonai, 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 Shekhinah, 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 oh, Havaya, 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 El Elyon, El Elyon, El Elyon, El Elyon, oh, Hamakom, 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 Hamakom.
Let's take a moment for our own personal private prayers and reflection.
Ose shalom, bimromah, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. And I say, everything is gonna be alright. Everything is gonna be alright. Everything is gonna be alright, yeah. Everything is gonna be alright. I say, oh, say shalom. Oh, say shalom. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Oh, say shalom.
So we conclude tefillah with prayer for peace, for wholeness, kind of that general thought of that shalom and integrity of the world. We shift the focus more narrowly to those who seek a wholeness, completeness of recovery from whatever it is of kind of illness that they face. maybe a physical nature or emotional one or spiritual one. It may be a major life threatening one or one that's more chronic or simply bad allergies this time of season, whatever it is, we can send the spirit of healing their way. So if you would, please take this time and on the chat to share with us those in your lives or who you know about who are in need of healing of any kind, of any fashion. And as you do that, I will add and share the names of those who've been shared with me. Scott Albin, David Titleman, Evan Silverman, Karen Kaler, Bobby Lyman, Christy Kirchhoff, Julie Trologan, Patty Myers, Lloyd Schwab, Herbert Weiser, Miriam Swihart. In addition to these names and those who you're sharing, we turn to our prayer for healing. It's one of our reggae Shabbat inspired prayers for healing from Jimmy Cliff. I can see clearly now.
I can see clearly now the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me down. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. I think I can make it now, the pain is gone. All the bad feelings have disappeared. Here's the rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. Look all around, there's nothing but blue sky. Look straight ahead, there's nothing but blue sky. I can see clearly now the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me down. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. Yeah, it's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. Oh, it's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day.
So we now begin our concluding prayers. You'll find our Aleinu tonight comes from the latter part of the Aleinu, not the first part of the traditional Hebrew. And we've done it a few times before, but if you're not familiar, it's easy. The first part is just a call and response, and we call it V'hashevota. Thank you, Hal. So we now turn our attention, our intention to those of us who are mourning and missing people whom we love who have died. We take this time to share with each other those loved ones. The deaths can be recent, could be anniversary of their deaths, or could just be missing and thinking of someone you love. So if you'd like to, please share the names on the chat of people who have died who you are missing. And I'll also mention and share with you those whose deaths are recent in our community and those whose yahrzeits fall this week. First, with whom those who are mourning are in the period of Shloshim, the first 30 days after they have died. We remember Paul Carey, friend of Claire Rothschild, Louis Shikiar, uncle of Rob Shikiar, Merrill Goldman, dear friend of mine, Charles Schwartz, father of David Schwartz, Terry Dufresne, friend of Rob Shikiar, Ruth Aqua, mom of our beloved Hal, and Patricia Myers, Liz Feldman's cousin. This week's yahrzeits that we acknowledge: Abraham Epstein, Al Goldberg, Alan Mandel, Arden Pearl, Daniel Levine, and Daniel Levine. So with the names of those who have I mentioned and who you've shared, we join together in the words of Mourner's Kaddish. Is it, if it is your custom and you are able and would like to, please rise as we join together. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemei Rabbah. V'yalma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chai echon uv'yom echon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uv'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal Shmei Tekudesha b'richu. Li'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Damira bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei Shalama Rabba min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru amen. And all who miss and grieve our loved ones, let's find some joy, hopefully, in their memory and the way their spirit is still part of us. But also let's lean one another, let's support one another as we walk this path of grief and mourning. And let us all say, Amen. So as we begin towards the end of our time together, I'll just share things that are going on or we're trying to have going on in our community. Tomorrow morning, we'll have Shabbat Tish at 11 a.m. Join us for a discussion of Ha'alotecha, this week's portion. Doesn't matter if you're a Tish regular or not, if you just like an interesting, stimulating discussion. But how these ancient texts and what they say to us today, we'd love to have you. We started at 11, and if you don't have the link, just it's in your email or drop me a note. I'm happy to share it with you. This coming week on Thursday night, our boomers are getting together, and you do not need to be a boomer per se. There is no card checking at the door. We're having story time with Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav and the Baal Shem Tov. We're going to just take a couple of those stories and see what those great masters have to say to us. Next Shabbat morning will be at 10 a.m. as our schedule continues of one service Shabbat. Following week, I'll let you know that is our annual meeting, and where we ask the congregation to approve budget and approve the new slate of leadership. The meeting is on Zoom, so I don't know if that'll make it more appealing or easier for people to attend, but even if you can't attend, you can still participate in the proxy, in the quorum, and vote. And so all you need to do is look in your emails for those links that have come from both me and the Micah office. And sign up to put your proxy in. Even if you're going to show up, that is the way to vote online as well. So there won't be a voting in the Zoom room. You'll have to do that online. So please check out that information that the leadership is asking you to support, and so that we can move forward in this this weird and challenging time as we transition leadership and look to at least the fiscal year and then the Jewish New Year that's ahead. Speaking of looking ahead, we're still doing this virtually, and we're still planning mostly to be virtual over the summer, and looking at all our options and what we do and what the virus says to us, and those leaders and experts that we trust that guide us as to what we need to do as Temple Micah. And so we'll be having our Shabbat services as we are in Tish virtually. We are discussing what it would look like to have a Shabbat in the park and to try to congregate and gather that way. And so look for options and information about that as we figure out how that might work and how it might enable us to gather at least a little bit in this strange time. So I know that everyone's mind and everyone's heart right now is as hard as the pandemic is and how that's impacted our lives. The events of the past week and a half since George Floyd's death and the way our country has reacted has impacted us all, and leaves us with so many feelings and so many emotions, with heavy hearts, with fear, with anxiety about where we are and where we might go. And for me personally, this is something that we have a community have attempted to engage in discussion and dialogue and work about for the past few years, and trying to understand our place as Jews in this work that needs to be done about injustice for the Black community, for the African American community. I talked about in Yom Kippur how it's a weird space that we sit, because to walk around for most of us in the Micah community, we look, to use the racial terminology, we look white, we look Caucasian. And so we enjoy much of that privilege and know that. But there are other ways too that we are other, we are minority, which sadly are reminded in different instances, both subtle and not so subtle as well. So what is our role? Where do we place ourselves? Well, I have no new answers, no new responses. In fact, I'm not quite sure as I looked at this week's Torah portion if I am hopeful or frustrated by what I found there. We're in the book of Numbers, B'midbar. The portion is called Ba'alotecha. And our ancestors are wandering through the wilderness as they make their way towards the promised land. And Moses finds the situation where he is to take another wife. And the only thing we're told about his wife is that she is a Cushite woman. Now, this Cushite woman, when Aaron and Miriam, Moses' siblings, find out that he's marrying a Cushite woman, they speak against him. They are upset. They are even outraged by this. Now, what do we know about Cushite women? Well, if we look in the text and what the meaning of the word is, perhaps Ethiopian, most certainly almost dark-skinned. And so we have here in our tradition, in our story, this incident of our people, our ancestors, we Jews, judging people by what color their skin is. And as I say, I am not sure if I'm affirmed or frustrated. Am I affirmed that we human beings have been dealing with this part of the way we look at the world for thousands of years? It's going on then and it's going on now. And is that affirming because this is a nature of the human condition? This is one of the pieces, the elements that we have to figure out to evolve from mere animal to divinity. Or am I frustrated because it's been 4,000 years, enough already? Can't we figure this out? Can't we stop this? Can't we get over this? Our tradition is not so wonderful frankly, in trying to explain this. Some of the midrash and commentary tries to explain, well, they don't really mean that they didn't like her because Cushite doesn't mean she was black or dark skinned. Cushite really is, well, if you take the numerology of the word, the gematria, it comes out to beautiful. And they're really trying to give her a compliment to refer her this way. Now, in its mental gymnastics to try to smooth over this, it still doesn't explain Miriam and Aaron's reaction. You can't get around that. And certainly in the context of the narrative, you can't get around that either, because it's wrong. They're punished rather unfairly too, and not just how we treat people of color, but people of different gender, because Miriam, of course, is punished, but not Aaron. She is stricken with leprosy. And so I read this in this moment, and again, it's simultaneous. I am pointed to the frustration of, oh, still we're figuring this out. The affirmation of, oh, no, this is our work. And I could be hopeful and optimistic and say, well, we as human beings, I want to think, I need to believe that we're better about this than we used to be. We may not even be good, but we're better. And we're in the midst of this awful moment and feel we're terrible about it. But that's perhaps what we need to do. That's what growth is. That's what evolution is. It's not smooth and linear, but it's meandering and painful. Perhaps that combination of both being frustrated and affirmed is what we should take to heart. That in this moment, that we should recognize this is part of the human condition. This is a way that's wired into us. And so when we see the others who do this, we should have some love for them. When we look deeper within our own bias, which we think, oh, we're not racist, but are we anti-racist? When we do that, we should have love for ourselves. But we should be frustrated and not suffice to say, well, enough has been done. It's good enough. We should have both these emotions simultaneously and honor them. And perhaps there's a little clue and help in Moses. We know Moses is imperfect, as we hear in our stories, but in this moment, the text makes sure to tell us that he is an ish anava, he is a humble man. And maybe there's some clue for us there in this idea of humility. And not simply the idea of humility that, oh, we're not supposed to think too much of ourselves. No, in our tradition, in the sense of spiritual growth and curriculum, the idea of humility is knowing when you are to maybe withdraw yourselves and be smaller in a space in a moment. And when the moments are appropriate for you to be large and big. And Moses' humility is not just about withdrawing and standing back, but knowing with the right moments to withdraw and to listen, to be observers, to be witnesses. And the moments when it takes us to move beyond that and to act and to participate. That's what we have to figure out. I don't know exactly when it is. I'm working with you and promise to continue working with you and talking with you and working with our partners in the community that can help us be part of this sacred work. I've been in conversation with Pastor Nathan over the past week about how he is personally with what's been going on and with his community, and have said to them that, as you may have read what I wrote and shared with them, that we are here with them. We are ready to do the work and look forward to walk side by side with them, not lead, not follow, but side by side, and work together to face this particular injustice that we're called to fight. So as we go on into our week, there are no easy answers. There are no quick fixes or pithy proverbs to put out there to make it all better. We're like, I am stuck with the Torah portion, that perhaps we're affirmed and frustrated. Perhaps there's hope and worry. And we take these both to heart, we balance these, and let's go out there and do the work that needs to be done, as we are called, as we are challenged to do. One more thought. Last night, virtually, of course, I taught the Introduction to Judaism course. That's part of our rabbinic council's responsibilities. It was history too, and I was given the large scope of Jewish history, 4,000 years of history in 90 minutes. Quite a feat. I don't know how well I do it, but I try. At the end, before everyone signed off, there was time for questions. And one of the students asked me, said, Rabbi, so it was kind of an absurd question in a way. It was so big. What's the Jewish response to all this stuff? What are we supposed to do with this? And what came to me was, we're meant for this. From the stories of our Torah, of the Exodus, that we are supposed to remember the stranger, supposed to care for the widow and the orphan and the stranger. This is who we are and why we're here. We're supposed to hear and do this work and be hopeful about it and move forward about it. Even as it gets dark, even if we feel vulnerable, that's who we are and that's our mission. So let's keep giving each other strength and giving strength to others and keep moving forward and harnessing that hope and working towards peace. Amen, everyone. All right, Hal. Send us out with some good song, good music. What are you going to give us?
Oldie but a goodie. We shall overcome.
I don't need words for that.
We shall overcome.